welcome back to Smashing Heads Podcast. This is going to be our recap for the Challenge USA or the Challenge CBS, episodes 1 and 2. It's a new era. My name is Zach, and I'm joined by only my wife, Hannah.
Hey.
If it sounds a little weird, we are using a Yeti mic that we're sharing, and we also are currently in a hotel in Utah. As a lot of you know, Hannah and I are moving across the country. If you don't know, then you haven't listened to the last handful of episodes. But we are moving across the country, and the reason this episode is so late is because the last 2 weeks have been absolutely insane.
It's a lot of chaos, but we're here, and we're cute, and we're ready to go.
Yeah, that's how I always describe myself. And we basically have had to spend the last 2 weeks getting everything at our house ready to sell because we knew we were coming out to Utah to do some job and housing stuff and wanted our house to be on the market in Tennessee before that. So it's been crazy. We finally watched the 2 episodes of the Challenge CBS.
Better than I expected.
Yeah, we watched it not last night, but the night before last, and then we got busy yesterday and weren't able to record. So going forward, we should be on a pretty normal schedule to where these come out Wednesday nights. We are watching them on Paramount Plus the next day because they're uncensored on there, and it's a little bit more fun to watch. And so we'll be probably recording Thursday nights from here on out. It's just these first 2 weeks, especially with episode 1 dropping the same day that All Stars 3 ended, it just put us way behind.
They should have waited a week.
Yeah, they should have done a week between the two. Not just for our sake, but just for everyone's sake.
For the viewer's sake.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess you did not listen to the podcast that I did with Grimm and Connor regarding any of these people.
No.
Yeah. So,
but here's the thing. When we have a new season of anything, I like to go in totally blind, and so I had incredibly low expectations for this, and I wanted to keep it that way. I did not want to know anything about any of these people before watching because I wanted to make my own assumptions. So like I have a few little notes that I made at the very beginning of the first episode, and then throughout the second episode I'm like, oh, I was wrong about this person.
Well, yeah, so I tried to fill you in somewhat whenever we were going through just like, hey, this is what they think about this, and this is kind of the general consensus. I honestly forgot a lot of what we talked about with Grimm and Connor just because it's so many new people to us. I mean, we knew a couple. We knew the people from Survivor of the season we watched.
Yeah, okay.
Sarah,
I made a note about that.
Sarah and Tasha. And then we saw...
I wish Spencer was here.
Well, we saw Spencer on the flashback.
But I wish he was here.
And so it's these first 2 recaps especially are going to be very light on a lot of name heavy stuff just because it's all new people to us. But we did make notes and we did go through everything, and I do think so far I don't think it's hard to give like I'm enjoying it, and I asked our Slack group kind of what they think, and the general consensus is everyone's enjoying it, and if they're the people that are Big Brother and Survivor like super fans, they're really into it. But I mean, if you were coming in blind to this, or like Double Agents or Spies, Lies, and Allies, and didn't know any of the people on either side, I don't know which show you'd like more. You might like this one more because you don't have any familiarity with the other people on the MTV show.
Yeah, and with Spies, Lies, and Allies and Double Agents, a lot of the people on the cast knew each other very well. Like, they had established relationships. On this, you've got your cliques of Big Brother knows each other, but they don't know the other people.
Well, some do.
I mean, like, they've seen them, they know of them, but they don't have an established relationship.
Yeah, it's definitely super cliquey, and I expected that going in just because you kind of, like, form into, like, not to use Survivor terms, but like tribes, if you will, where like, oh, well, even if I wasn't super close with them, they were at least on the same show as me, so we have a lot in common. So, yeah, we're gonna do episode 1 and 2 together, and so we're not gonna do a lot of small talk on the front end of this. We have a lot. We'll talk more about Utah stuff later.
We talk to each other 24/7, so we've already gotten our small talk out of the way.
Well, I mean, I know, but we were going to get this. This is just an odd episode just because we're recording in a hotel with a different mic.
In the morning,
on the road. I'm not even fully dressed yet. It's
You're only wearing a t-shirt.
No, you got the exact opposite of that. I have pants on, but not a shirt.
I was excited to see.
Did you forget what a t-shirt was?
No, I was excited to see such a wide variety of characters on here.
Speaking of that, since you didn't know anything going in on the front end coming into these episodes, do you have any favorites?
Like favorites to win or favorites to watch?
To watch. Or you can say favorites to win. I think Tyson's not clearly the favorite to win right now.
Tyson is my favorite to win. I don't really have anybody.
You were very high on Derek when we first saw him.
Who is that?
The Asian guy with the glasses.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about him. I never got his name.
Well, you told me immediately, like, oh, I like this guy because he doesn't seem to fit in with everyone else.
He looks like he's on the wrong show.
Yeah. But apparently, like, a lot of people really liked him.
He's, like, they showed him, and before he had his confessional, I was like, oh, he looks like one of those, like, really nerdy, just, like, comic book kind of science guys. And then he's like, oh, I was captain of the chess team on my school. And I was like, yeah, perfect. He's not my favorite to win, but I like him.
Yeah, I knew you said you liked him.
I like Angela, I think is her name, that was paired with Tyson. Yeah. I think she's incredibly pretty. She's got a very pretty...
I think her and Desi are the two prettiest people on the show.
Who is Desi?
The former Miss whatever. She's got real big arms.
She was my second note of the episode. Yeah. So my first one was, we got a real life professional footballer here. Who I did not catch his name, but he is obsessed with his wife Kiki. Yeah. I made a note about that because every single confessional, he just talks about his wife.
Yeah, so for you guys listening who are very familiar with these CBS shows, it's going to take us a little time to really remember everyone's name. I have forgotten the guy that played cornerback in the NFL. I forgot his name. But I do like him. I want to say it starts with a D. Maybe it's Derek? No, Derek's the guy we just talked about. There's also a David on here, but it's not. I don't think that's him.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know
you know who we're talking about. The guy with the beard who's always in every single confessional says, my wife Kiki.
Yeah. Which I love that. We love a man that's obsessed with his wife.
Yeah.
And we got a real life Miss USA pageant queen. And then my next note was being a fan of the show, The Challenge. Was that a requirement to be on this? Because every single confessional of all these people, their first one was, oh, I'm such a fan of the show. I've always wanted to be on here.
I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if when people brought that up, that like the editors or the producers were like, let's include that on the front end because it gives some legitimacy to this franchise, because you're introducing this show and this concept to a whole new audience on CBS. Like, that's a much broader audience than MTV. And also the feeder shows like Survivor and all that are a lot bigger than, the Real World and stuff, obviously. So I don't know. That's probably a conscious thing that they're like, oh, we need to say, like, oh, this is a legitimate thing that people are excited about. Yeah. I doubt that everyone, or even half of them, like, were really into the show, but there were a few, like James from The Amazing Race, who was like, oh, I watched all the last 10 seasons.
Yeah, and, like, he's very much trying to play a very heavy political game. Yeah. And, I mean, like, it's kind of worked for him so far.
Oh, it did, yeah. So let's just...
and then my next note was, what are the odds that the one Survivor season we watch brings two competitors to this?
Yeah, I knew that was happening because, again, I knew the cast and all that beforehand. And
but, like, what are the odds? We watched one Survivor season. I had never watched Survivor.
I've watched some more since then.
And two people from that one Survivor season we watched are on this.
Yeah, and Tasha is 45 and
does not look
it. Like, good for her. And Sarah... So, slight Survivor spoilers, but Sarah did what wasn't great on the season we watched because she trusted Tony too much. Mm-hmm. She came back
to Survivor
on an All-Stars type season, and Tony was on there again and beat her again. And then she came back another time, and she might have won that third time, but apparently everyone said like she's been like really great on Survivor since then. But
If she did really well on Survivor, she should do really well on this, because Survivor has some physical stuff, but it is a very heavy political show.
It's also very mental compared to the other ones, because you are dealing with hunger and needing resources and like uncomfortable sleeping situations, and so it builds a very tough mentality, which is why Tyson is a far and away favorite.
Exactly. Why we've seen, people that come on the challenge that do not have any mental toughness, they crack immediately.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. So
speaking of,
well, let me try to run through my notes a little bit, just because one, this is set in Argentina. I didn't know this was set in Argentina.
You thought it was in the U.S.
I did, because there is going to be the Challenge Argentina, and there's going to be the Challenge Australia and the Challenge UK.
Doesn't make any sense.
So yeah, that's what threw me off. Unless they just rented one place and they're like, we'll use it for
Argentina?
both. Yeah, we'll use it for both places,
yeah.
Or it could be all going there, maybe. Tyson was the one who said he's known the Challenge for a long time, and he's definitely a familiar face to a lot of people, because he's done Survivor multiple times.
Won multiple times?
I don't know. I think he's only won once.
Okay.
But he's done really well.
Okay.
And he also is a professional athlete.
He's a cyclist?
He's 42.
What?
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's
no way. I thought for sure he was like in his early 30s.
A lot of these people that are coming on for the first time are older than what we're used to. Like, there's a handful of people that are playing for the first time that are 40 plus.
That's insane.
Yeah, because with All Stars you expect it, because it's people we haven't seen in 10 or 15 years. But
they've been removed for several years.
Tyson's like 42. I want to say like either Enzo or Dominique, one of those guys from Survivor. He's like 42 or 43.
That's wild.
Yeah, there's a handful that we went, because I learned some of that going through with Connor and Grimm. I did make a note that seems like a lot of people are aware of the main show. Because again, if you're in this reality TV bubble, competition stuff, you're kind of aware of, here's another revenue. Like, even if your agent's like, hey, have you ever thought about maybe trying out for this or things like that? So,
we got a cowboy too.
We did have a cowboy from Survivor.
I didn't know what. I didn't catch the show. I didn't catch his name. I just saw the cowboy hat.
His name's Ben.
And I was like, we got a cowboy.
That's
enough for me.
I don't remember which is which. I think Connor does not like him, and Grimm really likes him. So I think he's kind of like split. But I think he did well on Survivor. Did
I catch this right? Do we also have a pastor here?
Shan from Survivor. Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak to her. I don't know, but she is a pastor to some degree. So then you have the whole like Big Brother Cookout Alliance, which is who screwed over Derek and Alyssa, I think, from Big Brother. But it basically was an alliance that like blindsided and like took over the show, which it's like Xavier, which is the bald guy.
Okay.
And then Tiffany, who got kicked off in episode 2.
Yes.
And
she was the leader, was she not? Or was she just the leader here?
I don't know. I feel like Xavier was the leader, but someone that watches Big Brother a lot will probably yell at me about that if I'm wrong. Tiffany might have been. I don't know. Xavier does not think that the Big Brother Cookout Alliance will be as close here as they were on Big Brother, because they took everyone by surprise on that. Everyone here knows that, these guys all work together. And so TJ comes out. Everyone's super hyped for TJ.
Because TJ's great.
I know, but it's so weird because I've known TJ Lavin before.
Personally.
Well,
you guys have been pen pals for years.
I've known TJ Lavin before the challenge, way before the challenge. I knew him as just a professional BMX rider because I was super into extreme sports and watching the X Games and all that.
Well, that was his lower third on this episode, was like professional BMX rider instead of host.
Well, that's what he is. Like, that is his profession. He does this now, and he's probably more known for this, but like, I used to watch him in the X Games all the time. And then I was like, oh, awesome, he's hosting the challenge. And, because Dave Mirra and Johnny Mosley and all those guys did it too. So it's just crazy to see how many people are hyped for him. We find out that everyone gets $1,000 seed money, and you need $5,000 to make the final. And I was like, okay. But then you find out if you win a daily, you get $5,000. And so you just need to win one daily, or the money thing is going to be a little weird. It's a very old school challenge approach.
I think if they're going to give you $5,000 for winning one daily, you should make like the minimum to make the final like $20,000.
Oh, winning 4 dailies is tough. That is tough, especially with rotating partners. So maybe, but like 5,000 seems low.
It seems really low, but also when you go into elimination and you beat someone, you take all their money.
True, but most people only have $1,000 because they haven't won anything. So the only thing I can think of is that you would rather make it too low than too high, because if you get to the end of the show and you're like, oh, we only have 2 people who can run the final, like you need to have enough.
I guess.
But 5,000 did seem a little low.
Maybe 10,000.
Again, Tyson is an anomaly. Like winning 2 dailies in a row is not easy. Like again, Nelson has done this show for how many years?
He's never won
a daily. So you win a challenge or eliminations, make money, like we said, and then everyone kind of goes into the house. And one of the big differences between the main show and this is on this, everyone just kind of like saunters in and looks around. On the main show, everyone's running to beds.
Yeah.
But even for the last like 20 years, they're running like, oh, we got to get the room we want with our people and all that.
Here, you got to fight for the right
casual. It's like you can tell.
Everybody's looking around.
You can tell these people have not done the challenge before. And like that's not a huge thing, but like
it was a difference.
Yeah, it
stuck out.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And then we have Derek saying he's not an athlete.
Bless his heart.
I think I like him. I think he's going to be fun. So then we the Love Island people are a whole mess of stuff.
My next note after we have a pastor is Shannon might as well just go ahead and go home.
Okay, well hold on. You jumped ahead of me.
I didn't take a lot of notes.
Okay, so I'll get to a lot of that. So what I was gonna say is we did have the Cashel and Kyra very awkward hand on the shoulder.
Okay. I didn't make a note about this because I was talking to you about it. So I
was like, how you doing, buddy?
Again, I don't know these people. And you could tell it was a very awkward encounter, and like Cashel is trying to talk to Kyra. He's trying to talk to her, trying to strike up a conversation, and you can tell she's not super into it. And then he just throws out his hand and puts it on her shoulder.
Like you look for like a 7-year-old.
And I looked at you and I was like, that was weird.
And she called it out. She's like, "What? This is odd."
It was weird.
Yeah. Again, we don't know too much of their background.
Well, I didn't know that they were exes at the time, and I was like, "This is really weird." And then they said that they were exes, and I was like, "That made it so much weirder."
Well, then apparently they haven't talked since they broke up, and
gross.
Also, he cheated on her, from what they said.
Yes, but that was the very, very end of episode 2.
That's why we. And then also, I believe, because you were talking to me, so I missed some of it. I believe she said that they were on a road trip and were in the middle of a drive, and they broke up and had to continue driving for the rest of the a long road trip.
I didn't hear that.
So I could be wrong on that, but yes, that's weird.
I have lots of notes about him. Mm-hmm. Throughout episode 1 and episode 2, because I'm like, what? I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. And then at the end of episode 2, we find out that he cheated on her. So it was kind of like the bow on top.
Well,
and so it made all my notes come together.
Well,
it made sense.
So we did say Shannon is a pastor, and then you do have Shannon, who is the blonde girl from Love Island,
who needs to go home.
Yeah, and I was like, she's just not built for this. She's crying on the bunk on day 1. They haven't even done anything, and she's like, I worked out so hard.
She's not even met anybody. She's sitting on her bed crying to.
I don't even remember.
James
from Amazing Race.
Maybe.
Okay, probably.
And another girl, maybe Sarah.
From Survivor.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who she was talking to, but she clearly was the only person in the bunk room. And they came to talk to her, I guess, to check up on her, because she's clearly crying. And she's complaining about how hard she worked out.
It's probably been like an hour and a half.
Yeah, she said she can't even do a push-up. And she tried to do some. And she's sitting on her bed freaking out about it. And I think it was James that was talking to her. If not, the guy that was talking to her was like, oh, well, how many did you do? And she said that's not relevant. And I was like, okay.
For some reason, I don't think it was James. I think it was either Cinco or Giovanni.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't have a clue. The male that was speaking to her asked her, how many push-ups she did.
Yeah.
And she would not respond.
Yeah.
Which tells me it was really low. And my next note is, I'm calling it now. This was before we knew it was pairs.
Yeah.
Individuals. I said, calling it now, she's within the first 5 to go home.
Yeah, I think she would be a top favorite to quit.
Yes.
Not necessarily get sent home, but to quit.
Yeah.
Because, again, if you're a competitor and you see this girl that's crying and saying she can't do anything physically and all that,
immediately after showing up,
then you're just like, okay, well, let's keep her around, especially if you're the other girls.
Exactly.
Now that it's a pairs thing and you're a guy and you know it switches every day, the guys have more of an incentive to get her out of here.
Yeah.
But so we get to the daily. It is pairs and it's co-ed.
But you pick your own partner.
On this one.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no chance we're going to remember these pairs. Because it's basically like drinking from a fire hose trying to remember everyone's names and all that stuff.
Well, my first note was some of these pairs look not promising.
Yeah. The daily's called Down to Do the Math, which is not a good name.
No.
I don't even...
The daily names are bad.
So far, two for two has not been great. So basically you're on a 22-story building. You're rappelling down in pairs, and they assign you a color. And each color corresponds to like one of 6 colors, and you have to do a math problem as you work your way down. It's like 8 times 2 minus whatever, and then you go from there. And you get 3 chances at the bottom for a guess, and if you get it wrong 3 times, you have to run all the way back up the stairs and do
like
the rappelling.
72 flights.
22.
It looks like 72.
So I'm assuming this is a daily that you could not have done.
Me?
Yeah. It's heights and math.
That's not nice.
It's your 2 weaknesses. You're good at a lot of things,
Not
but those
nice.
are your 2 weaknesses.
Not nice at all.
I
think this was a good first daily because, before we realized it was math, some of the pairings looked rather not strong physically.
Yeah.
And so this was a bit of an equalizer to give everybody a chance. I just thought it was a nice, fair, good first daily.
Yeah.
You're conquering massive fear of heights, and you're having to do math the whole time, which it's a lot of math.
And it's a stressful situation because it's the first day, so you're wanting to show that you can do well.
And you may not know your partner well.
Yeah, and the one thing is, we find out then it's a $10,000 prize split between the 2 winners, and the losers go straight into elimination, which I am fine with. We like that format because it doesn't... It gives you incentive to at least try.
Enzo, is that his name? Enzo?
There is an Enzo.
One of the older guys?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. He, in his confessional, looks like a train track worker from the 20s with his gray hat and the gray striped shirt.
When we looked through his stuff, I was like, this guy's got to be from like Brooklyn. Like he is like your stereotypical like, I'm from New York, get out of here.
Oh, that's a bad accent.
I know. But it was like that was exactly. I was like I don't even know what this guy sounds like, but just from his picture. And his name's Enzo. And by the way, I was wrong earlier. Katelin was the one who said he's watched the last 10 seasons of the challenge.
He's been training for this.
James just watches all reality TV, so he knew all these people from all their shows.
Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, by the way, I think I've told you Katelin. I thought he might be the one that Connor and Grimm did not like very much, but that was wrong. That was a guy named David who we saw none of.
Who's David?
Exactly. Nothing of in the first 2 episodes. He basically is, like they said he went home like right away on Big Brother, and he shouldn't even be on this show. And he basically has been nothing on the first 2 episodes. Like if I showed you a picture of him, you'd be like, this guy was not on the 2 episodes.
Do it. Show me a picture.
Okay, you're gonna have to talk then.
I didn't realize until it was their turn to go in their round that the exes paired up.
This guy.
Who's that?
Exactly. He wasn't in the episodes like at all.
I didn't realize that the exes, Cashel and the
Kari.
girl. I didn't realize until they were like strapping up that they paired up.
Yeah.
Clearly, he chose her as a partner before any of the other guys got to her. I'm sure of it.
There's a lot of stuff that happens in these episodes.
Well, my note on that was like after that awkward hand on the shoulder, just uncomfortable. And again, this was before we found out that he cheated on her. My notes were, oh, he's got to be in love with her, and she's not really feeling it.
Yeah, I think you said that from what you saw that he was the one that got broken up with.
Yeah, I told you. It was, I think, after this or whatever, that I was like, oh, maybe they dated. Because it said that they were exes. Yeah. I was like, maybe they dated and something happened and she dumped him and he's not over it.
Well, he cheated on her.
Well, again, take cheated on her out of the equation, and all of my notes are he's pining for her, he's in love with her, and she dumped him for some reason. So, and he's just trying real hard to get back in. So,
for the daily stuff, I'm not going to go through every person, every pair. There's no reason to. I've got a couple highlights. Let me just blast through those, and then you can give me anything. Well,
the exes won their round on the first try, and everybody chanted for them to kiss.
Yes, that is true.
Knowing he cheated on her makes that worse.
Castle and Kari get it the first try. Katelin and Azza, they have to run up the stairs. And we find out they're the only pair that has to end up running up the stairs, so that they're in last place. Mm-hmm. And then she basically collapses and
passed out.
I thought she was gonna have to go to the hospital. Like, he carried her after doing all that off to the side, and it was not a good sign for her. And so again, I don't have a lot of notes for this. I did write that James was smart to use the kind of dirty windows to write his math problems on.
Yeah, very smart.
And then Shannon, who I believe was his partner, mm-hmm. They get done, and it's just so a perfect example to me of what the Love Island people seem to be comparatively, and we see it a little bit later when they go out. But it's they finish the daily, and then she's waiting to get unhooked, and she just starts twerking the whole time because she knows the camera's on her, and I was like, I don't think these Love Island people are fully understand how hard this is gonna be.
Yeah.
Because
they don't know what they signed up for. I
mean, even Big Brother, even if the competition, the actual events are not hard as far as physically demanding, that type of stuff, it still is at least a competition where you're having to prove yourself. Love Island is just oh, we're all just gonna hook up and hope you match with the right person. Mm-hmm. And we'll see a little bit more about that later, but I did make a note that Leo talks about his cats a lot.
Did he name his cat after himself?
I think he said he has a cat named Leo as well. And then one of the guys said, "We're so smart, we dumb."
Giovanni, we so smart, we dumb.
Well, he gets sent home on this episode, so. And then he had Shan, the pastor, talk about Tyson and what was her name? Angela? And she called them Thor and Wonder Woman, which I had a problem with that because those are two completely separate universes.
Yes.
One's Marvel and one's DC. And I was like, that's not canon at all. But Shan, if you're going to preach about superheroes, you need to brush up on that a little bit. The losers are clearly Katelin and Azza because they're the only people that had to run up the stairs. Mm. And then the winner...
I have Katelin and Pass Out Girl.
Well, her name's Azza.
Okay.
The winners are Angela and Tyson, and they're safe, which we expected if you mm-hmm. win. And they get $5,000
each.
And they get to pick. They are alone in picking who goes against the losers going forward.
I like that.
I'm fine with that too. So, Jane, what?
My only note from the daily that you didn't catch was Shannon literally said, either right before or right after the daily, that she didn't want to be here.
Before.
Yeah. She literally said she literally didn't want to be here, and my note was, so send her home.
Well, but then she did okay in the daily, and so then she mm-hmm. was like, I gotta twerk for the camera.
Yeah.
And so James and Shannon are in a bad predicament anyway, not just because she wants to quit, but because they're one of the only duos who doesn't have anyone from Survivor or Big Brother in it. Mm-hmm. It's Love Island and the Amazing Race. Now, there are a couple other ones who have some people like that, but they're definitely the weaker looking team.
And on top of that, apparently Shannon has not only cried about it on her bed during the mixer, but she's been apparently saying around the entire house how she doesn't want to be there. And everybody else has been hearing it.
But again, and when you hear that, if you're a competitor, you're going to tell your other friends that you're with, like, oh, she doesn't want to be here. Like,
I just overheard her say she doesn't want to be here.
Exactly. So that's going to spread anyway. So we do get, like, a one-on-one with the winners and losers in this, like, cell room where they close the door off, which I kind of like that because it's just, like, it doesn't have a name because typically the challenge gives stuff like this a name. But it's just like they did it both episodes, and I think it's just going to be a thing going forward. Basically, James is like, I'm going to have to politic my butt off to get us to where we're not going in, because Kylan and Azza, I think, view them as the weakest team.
Well, they say they'd like a say in who their opponents are in elimination, and they both agreed that Shannon and James are who they would want to go against.
Yeah, I mean, they don't appear physically that strong, but...
Also, if you're going to get somebody that said they don't want to be there,
exactly.
They're probably not going to try very hard in elimination.
And I think they brought that exact point up. So after they leave, Tyson and Angela basically say, like, we're ride or die together. I've got... And what's interesting is they come from two completely separate shows. Mm-hmm. And so they're all in on each other. And then we get a night out. And, Tasha said... I believe said in her confession, like, on Survivor, we didn't get nights out like this. We were in the jungle. And the first note that I have from the night out is just, like, Love Island sticks out so bad compared to everyone else.
Yeah, I have two notes from the night out, and they're both about Shannon.
Yeah.
The first one is, Shannon, I feel like, just agreed to the show to get paid to party, and that she's Casey 2.0, but worse, because Casey... didn't cry in her room and say she didn't want to be there.
No.
She at least wanted to be there.
She cried on the dailies, but and like we kind of get there was some in this like night out, like you got some like confessional time with Selly, which we haven't really seen a lot of so far, and it's now looking back, you're like, oh, they showed her because she's the one that gets picked to go into elimination, because otherwise you'd be like, who is this? James, again, has already picked up that his and Shannon's name may be on the chopping block, and he brings Shannon in, and he's like, hey, guess what? Like,
he said, I really want to prepare you.
Yeah, and she was like, I think we're going to be picked, and she is flabbergasted.
Yeah, she was like, why?
It has not occurred to her at all that they might be a team that would be picked.
She shouldn't be here.
And I was like, that just shows like the difference between like him thinking like long term and her just like, I was here to party. And,
she shouldn't be here.
So we get to the elimination. It's called the arena again. I don't know if that's just going to be a thing going forward. And surprisingly, Tyson and Angela picked Selly and Giovanni, which I don't even think was on our radar.
It was a bit of a blindside.
And then they go back and show James and Shannon kind of working the system, like whispering in people's ears. That's all James, 100%. And James knows all of the players, and so he knows like their tendencies and all that stuff. And he just kind of like sowed the seed and let it spread, and it worked. And so the elimination is called Not So Fast. Like when it showed the arena, like immediately we knew what the elimination was.
Yeah.
It's one that they've done a bunch of times. I think
it's an older
it's a good
one.
elimination.
It's a classic. We know it. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, you basically just tie up the rope as confusing as possible, and then your opponent does the same, and whoever can untangle the others and get it all into the circle wins. And so you have 20 minutes. It's called Not So Fast to tangle it up. And then while Kylan and Azza are doing their like pre-game confessional thing, Giovanni and Selly are like chirping and like yelling and like trying to get in their heads. And I was like, this is either gonna like really work in their favor, or it's gonna make them look like morons.
Yeah.
And well, they're gonna look like morons. Because Kylan said, we'll just let our game speak for itself.
Well, I thought for a minute there, Azza was gonna pass out again.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how she'd hold up in this, and she did not hold up great in this.
No.
But, Kylin helped a lot.
Well, my note on the elimination was Kylin has been training for a long time for this, and she's going to cost him his dream.
He seems like a real nice guy.
He does. I like him.
And, again, this is not my knowledge of this, but one of our Slack patrons said that apparently he's somewhat on the spectrum, and so he has a little bit of a hard time, like, interpersonally with people on shows like this.
I didn't pick up on that.
And I didn't either. And so they're like, it just really kind of makes you root for him more because he's just like having to overcome that as well.
Well, I didn't know that. I liked him already. So,
yeah.
Like, he
just seems like a nice guy.
He seems really nice. And again, like, it has been said multiple times on this episode that this is something he's wanted to do for a long time and something that he has trained for.
And watched 10 seasons.
And watched a lot of. And so, like, this is his dream come true. And getting paired up with Azah is going to cost him because these are the only two performances that we've seen of her. Mm-hmm. And both have been very not good looks.
Yeah, her eyelashes fall off, which that's not whatever. But
that's why you don't wear eyelashes in elimination.
But, like, she was, like, getting, like, whipped by that rope, just, like, not holding it correctly. And
it's like she can't breathe.
Yeah.
It's very much like she's too frail.
Yeah, she's very
she's too frail to be on this show. And it's not just being thin, it's the fact that, like, she can't handle this. She's getting winded.
It's
like
not
crazy.
It's not a good look that her first daily and first elimination, like, she looked like she was about to die.
Yeah.
And
I don't think she's gonna last long.
No, I don't either. And I think if you're the guys going forward, you're worried if you get paired up with her for endurance type stuff. So honestly, because of that and how winded and how bad she performed in the daily, I thought they were going home.
Yeah.
And turns out they did not, and that's a big win for Kylin and Oz.
Kylin. Yeah. My note was Kylin won the elimination.
Yeah, he did.
And then, what's her name? Selly?
Yeah.
Her best friend is crying her eyes out.
Justee.
I don't know.
Yeah.
She's having a full-blown come apart.
Yeah.
Which is strange to me.
But again, the Love Island people are a different breed than the rest of us.
Well, my note after that was maybe she's next to go home if she can't function without the other girl.
Well, spoiler, she did good the next day, but she got paired up with the best person on the show.
Yeah. Well, we got a twist after the elimination.
By the way, I just made a note. I was like, I'm completely fine with Selly and Giovanni leaving. Like, they provided nothing for me. And they're just two Love Island people who could have been here, could have not been here, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah.
So TJ has one more thing that he wants to show afterwards, and we have a new thing called the algorithm, which is just randomly selects your new teammates, and so you never have the same teammate twice unless you complete all the possible pairs, and then whatever.
No same partners until it's not possible.
And then you won't have the same partner back to back.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is really a randomizer or if, like, production is strategically picking certain players.
Okay, I thought
this is conspiracy time.
Maybe this is random until open up episode 2. Kylin is now paired with Sarah. That's fine. And then the other exes get paired together. I don't know their names.
Cache and Cinco.
Yes. They get paired.
Island.
They get paired together. The first algorithm.
And again, they have not talked to each other since they broke up.
Exactly. And when that happened, I said, "Oh, I don't think this is random."
Yeah. By the way, we're going to do the superlatives at the end of the episode, of both episodes. Not just...
this is episode 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So my second note for episode 2 is I just know Cashel is all caps sick over not being partners with his ex anymore. Again, this was before we knew.
And he knows that now it's going to be forever because you can't get the same partner again.
Yeah.
But Cinco and Cache, they apparently did not communicate well because Sarah was trying to talk to her, like, well, at least you guys can work it out. And they said, oh, well, you're effed then.
Because Cache had told Sarah that he's not good at communication, and she was like, oh, never mind.
Also, it was hilarious to me that they cut to James, and I was like, he's dressed like Mario. And he was in a bright red shirt and overalls, and I was like, that is Mario cosplay if I've ever seen it.
Do you think he did it on purpose? Like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing? Like Mario, but make it fashion?
Maybe. I don't know. James is his own person, and maybe...
He's entertaining.
Yeah,
I kind of like
him. But I just thought that was funny that he immediately was like, oh, he's Mario.
Yeah. Tyson is giving me very strong West vibes.
Okay.
Because of this quote, he got paired with Justee, who is the best friend that lost her mind over the other girl leaving in elimination. So apparently she decided she was going to have it out for Tyson, and now they're paired together. Again, I don't think that's random. And his quote was, Justee may be upset with me, but I don't care.
Yeah, again, Tyson, he does seem similar to Wes in certain ways.
They're both really good swimmers.
True. Also, threats to win. Wes just won All-Stars 3.
Yeah.
Also, they kind of understand the relationship side of everything, and like it doesn't necessarily matter what people think of you if you have to work together. Like, who cares? Just get over it and get going. We can't go too far without talking about Tiffany and Cinco flirting, because that becomes a whole storyline throughout this episode. And apparently they had something outside of the show, which they're not even from the same. She's from Big Brother. He's from Love Island.
Was this post his breakup with the girl that he's partnered with?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh.
Somehow, again, a lot of these people run in the same circles eventually, doing appearances or whatever. And they're flirting a lot. And
Sarah says that Shan, I'm not sure who that is.
The pastor.
She says that Shan is the newspaper.
Yeah, they did. I think I talked about it on one of the recent episodes. I'd seen Invasion of the Champs was on like that Pluto channel or whatever, and I liked that they did all the confessionals out in like the woods, like kind of Survivor does, instead of on a green screen. I was like, it just adds a little bit more. It's harder to do because you have sun and bugs and lots of noises and stuff. But the one good thing about doing it on the green screen is you can do what they did with Shan, where they like superimpose her on like a new set and make it look like that.
Just silliness.
Yeah, it's
fun.
So we go to the daily.
My first note is I don't like the daily name.
It's
yeah, boy,
which is Flavor Flav thing, but
I like Flavor Flav, but this was just cringy.
I don't think I could.
They're not doing a good job.
It didn't feel like TJ wanted to do that way.
It's almost like production had to pay him extra.
Because it was like, oh, we have two buoys, and so we want you to say buoy like boy. And so he kind of did. So anyway, you're in pairs. You got to swim out, climb up a ladder, jump onto the buoys, and you can collect up to 5 letters at a time, and then you swim back, and then you try to make the most words in a Scrabble-type format before the time runs out. And I don't even remember what the time limit was. 20 minutes. All right. I wrote it down, so thanks, me, from the past. Yeah, I don't have a lot of notes for the daily. I have one. Leo was like the first guy to go. And
After the horn.
He just leisurely strolls up to the edge of the water.
Takes his
they're made for the water. They're made so you can climb the ladder and do all this stuff, and like no one else took those off.
But especially if he knew he didn't want to wear them, don't do it after the horn. Yeah. You're losing precious time.
Do it before. So he's not off to a good start. And then in the next round, James and Kayla, who are the other two Amazing Race people, they just are doing awful to begin with, and he like falls so hard that he's crying.
Yeah, he like loses it for a second.
I think he got winded, and that does scare you, and it hurts. And he's crying, and they get 0 words.
Okay, so the game is to make as many words as possible, as in number. You want as many numbers of words as possible.
It's not like
Leo and Angela wasted all their time making one big long word.
I think that their idea was to get one big word with a lot of letters, and you could build little words off of that. The problem is you can only grab 5 letters at a time.
Yeah, and they wasted a lot of time.
Yeah, because in Scrabble, the longer the word, the more points you get.
Yeah, but this is not Scrabble.
It's not. And so...
they don't get extra points for making a long word.
They were the first to go, so that I give them a little bit of slack on that because you never really know. But, yeah, not a great start. We did get... When Cashel went, which I don't even remember who his partner... Oh, his partner was Tiffany. Mm-hmm. He spelled out the word Kyra, which is a proper noun, which is not...
So Tyson, like right as Cashel and Tiffany were starting their round, Tyson says that his biggest concern in the show, in the game right now, is Cashel. Cashel's biggest concern is his ex because he's trying to form out words and he puts her name on the board.
I really don't feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but Cashel didn't feel as much of a big threat as he kind of felt like a wild card to me. A guy that like could turn it on and maybe be in shape. He also just looks like a guy who like Senses Fail is his favorite band. And
he could be both. Yeah. He was not on my radar as a potential favorite to win until Tyson said that. And I'm like, why does he think Cashel is a threat?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he did spell out Kyra, and she's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? And then when Tyson goes, I was like, this guy is wild. Like,
he gets every letter.
He swam out and back like 8 times, and
he got all the letters and just made a pile.
And he was just like, you do all the writing, and he said he was using like a cycling technique to where you only breathe out your nose to not show people that you're winded. And he's like, you know what, I'll do another lap. Who cares? Because he's wanting to like intimidate people. Uh-huh. And
he said never breathe hard in front of your opponent. And my note on that was, is this a thin Wes?
Yeah, I mean he
because that's very Wes mentality.
Yeah. And then we get more of my wife Kiki.
Danny. My note was Danny has to be obsessed with his wife
not David,
Kiki. Yeah. He talks about her in every confessional. I've learned her name before 80% of the competitors here.
Is she someone we're supposed to know? Like, is she like famous Kiki or something? He's not married to Kiki Palmer, is he?
No, Kiki Palmer's not married.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No,
that's the only Kiki I know.
I think he just loves his wife and just wants to talk about her all the time.
Or maybe she threatens him all the time, and he's like, I have to mention her, so she knows that I'm being good. So the losers are James and Kayla. They got 0 words.
Yeah.
And then the winners are Tyson and Justee. Again, Tyson's won 2 in a row. We get the one-on-one thing with the winners and losers again in that little room. And, not much came of it, but we did then get Cinco carrying Tiffany to bed, which was...
just carried and dropped off.
True. We didn't see anything happen, but it still was very flirty.
Mm-hmm. Well, his ex-girlfriend was in the room.
Exactly.
Like, right there.
And that is when her and Kyra kind of start scheming, we got to get her out of here. She's trying to manipulate all the men. Cashel is another one.
Uh-huh.
And so both of their exes. And so we get to the elimination, and the picks are Tiffany and Cashel. And that surprised her because we'd seen earlier Tyson basically just straight up promised her that she was safe.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, well, she was for about half an hour.
Yeah.
And
I really, 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 really liked Justine's pearl beaded denim jacket.
I vaguely remember it, but I don't remember much.
I liked it a lot. I was very distracted by it because it was just super cute. And now I need someone to help me find out where she got it and how to get one.
Well, maybe the elimination is called Knowledge is Power, so maybe someone can give you that knowledge to be powerful to
enough
get a jacket.
To buy it.
Yeah, it's the 3-phase game. Basically, you pedal until 2 bars light up, and then you get a flash of a puzzle of 10 pieces, and you have to do it in order, in sequence. And if you get it wrong, you gotta start pedaling again. And I was like, this probably isn't gonna favor James and Kayla. They seem like they're like fun people, and like the Amazing Race is its own like travel thing, but I was like, Cashel and Tiffany seem like maybe they can like turn it on athletically.
Well, Tiffany seemed like she was going to be one of the more physically dominating females in the game. She just seems like that. And,
she seems tough.
And apparently, Tyson says that Cashel's a big threat to him. So I thought, yeah, these guys definitely have it in. But I also said James and Kayla are a really good pair, like your everyday BFFs. And they went into this elimination super positive mindset.
Well,
they're like, oh, this is just a free spin class. We're just going to hop on our Pelotons and have a great time.
Also, she said something about there's lots of tits and wits out here, and I'm short on... I don't remember what she said, but I was like, oh, okay, they're just having fun out here.
Yeah.
And, like, they're, like, high-fiving, and they take their jackets off halfway through. Like,
and, like, do, like, the little strip tease.
Yeah. I think that they were like, we're the underdogs. We're just going to have fun with it.
And they won.
Turns out, well, yeah, so they got the first... No, Tiffany and Cashel got phase 1 first. Then James and Kayla got phase 2 first. And then James and Kayla win. They just win.
Yeah.
And from what we've gathered, from what we saw, and then from what the confessionals were... It seems like Tiffany was the weak link because Cashel was about to kill himself.
They showed Cashel several times on his bike, and multiple people said that his bike was about to take off.
Yeah,
and like you could see, like the way he was like pedaling, he was giving everything he had in his body, and Tiffany did not seem to be pedaling very hard.
So if we had to do it like a percentage wise, it seems like James and Kayla were like 50-50.
Yes.
And Cashel and Tiffany were like
75-25.
Yeah, but even apparently she didn't even do the 25 well because they didn't even get the third thing. And
so he was maybe Cashel was doing 80%, 90%, and Tiffany was doing 5%.
Okay. I think you're going a little too far on that.
Well,
one.
I'm trying to see like out of 100% just for Cashel, he was doing 120%.
Okay.
I thought he was going to die on that bike.
Yeah, he was trying very hard and wanted to win. And
Tiffany did not seem like she was trying very hard.
Basically doing all he could. And so that is a huge win for James and Kayla.
Free spin class.
That's a huge win for the house.
Yeah.
Because you get two people who were, if they're not the top threats, I'd say they're in the top half of each side.
Yeah.
And so that's two people gone that were taken out by guys you wouldn't have expected to. And so also, it's the pick that Tyson and Justine threw in is going home. So there's no bad blood there.
Yeah.
And
it's not going to fire back.
Yeah, and it's not like you sent them in and then they won and they're coming back to the house to seek revenge. And so that's the last of the notes that I had for this episode, except that the first episode we watched, we didn't watch the end credits or anything because it was a video on demand thing through YouTube TV. The second one we watched on Paramount Plus, and I just let the ads play while we were doing something else. I mean, not the ads, but the closing credits. The closing theme song for the Challenge USA sounds very much like the animated X-Men intro from the 90s.
I didn't catch that.
I'll have to play them side by side. Go back if you're listening. Listen to the Challenge USA post credits. It's not in the intro because the intro is only like a flash screen for like 5 seconds. It's in the closing credits. There's a song, and then I was like, that is so much like the X-Men is. It's very similar to that, and so I love X-Men. So that's a great way to end. Any final thoughts so far?
My last note, and this is just the way that I wrote it is because we've watched a lot of Cody Co videos. Last note, I for real thought Cashel was dumped by his ex and down bad. Turns out he just cheated on her.
Oh yeah, yeah, and then he probably just regrets it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's gone, which is good for her because she doesn't seem interested.
Yeah, she seems relieved.
So let's get into superlatives for these first two episodes. We're going to do them combined, so you can pick from either episode, and you can go first, or I can go first if you want.
I can go first.
Okay.
My smashed heads is actually for both episodes.
Okay.
Tyson, he's killing it.
Yeah,
he's killing it politically.
He's clearly the favorite,
and killing it like in the dailies.
I mean, he just looks like a different level than everyone else.
Yes.
And he's thinking long term and like.
He's zeroed in on this.
I think, and honestly, going back to the podcast I did with Connor and Grimm, they were like, he'll be a favorite to win.
Yeah, he is my favorite to win.
And so, yeah, for Smash Heads, I'll give him that. I'm going to give it to James. As bad as he did in the daily in the episode 2, and as bad of a partner as he had in episode 1, because I don't want to pick the same as you.
Yeah.
He saved him and his partner from going into elimination by strategically manipulating, spreading words, because he's watched all of these shows. He's a reality TV guy.
And the windows.
He did the math on the windows, but then in this, him and Kayla should not have won this elimination.
And they did.
And they took out two pretty strong competitors. And so, like, other than, like, when he got hurt and he, like, lost his breath and was crying and they did very bad in the daily, like, for a guy who would not be picked in, like, the top half of the... Like, he's done well so far.
Yeah, he has.
So I'll give it to him.
I'm okay with that.
So who got their head smashed?
Casual by himself. Numerous times. The hand on the shoulder to start off. The awkward conversations. Selecting his ex as a partner. Writing her name in the crossword puzzle.
Yeah, that was the weird one.
And it's just... It's a lot. It's a lot. And then after he got eliminated, he's like... Oh, Kyra, I hope you do okay without me. And she's like, I don't care.
Yeah. Like, they're just in two different worlds right now. For who got their head smashed, even though she won the elimination, Ozza almost died twice.
Yeah.
And if you're one of the guys left, you're not stoked about being partnered with her on anything physically taxing. So that's going to be my pick, because she seems like she's probably a great person, nice lady, but
I worry about her going forward.
Yeah, like
I'm worried something's going to happen to her.
She cannot withstand a final.
No. I don't know that she can withstand any more dailies.
Yeah, we'll see. Episode comes out late tomorrow night, and we'll watch it on Thursday. But this season of the challenge, for the USA, we are going to do something we've not done before. We're going to recommend stuff to read. It doesn't have to necessarily be books. If you want to really think outside the box, Hannah, and do like a web article you found, that's fine, as long as you can specifically tell people how to get there.
Something to read.
Yeah, just something to read, because we haven't done that.
Like the back of a shampoo bottle.
I wouldn't pick that unless it's very intriguing. But we did video games during All-Stars 3. And we've done music a million times. We've done movies. We're going to do stuff to read. And I can go first if you want, or you can go first.
I've got mine.
Okay, go for it.
So, starting off strong, Persuasion by Jane Austen. And what helps make it even better is there is a movie on Netflix coming out that is an adaptation of Persuasion with the girl from 50 Shades of Grey.
Dakota
Johnson.
I almost said Fanning, but that's not Fanning. That's a different actress.
Yeah, so Dakota Johnson,
the one that pretended to like limes in her house, but she's like a decorator.
She's allergic to limes, and she just went with it. Yeah, that was really funny. I don't know if it already came out, or if it's about to come out, but
I think it's out because it's got ratings on IMDb.
Okay, then it just came out last week. Oh, July 15th was the release date. Okay, so read the book. Watch the film adaptation on Netflix.
It doesn't have great reviews. It's like 5.5 out of 10.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that wanted it to be more precise to the book, but it's a little bit modernized. I haven't watched it, but I will be watching it soon.
If you don't know, Hannah loves Jane Austen.
I love Jane Austen because
I almost said Jane Eyre, but
I like Jane Eyre too.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. I know I'm a fan of Jane Austen because it's not your typical like romance novels. Jane Austen was a very tongue-in-cheek author who made fun of the female stereotypes and the societal...
And was it in the 1800s?
In the early 1800s. Like, Pride and Prejudice, I'm 27 and I have no money and no prospects. I'm a burden to my parents. That was very, she called out the societal norms in the 1800s and was like, this is wrong. It shouldn't be like this. And so that's why I like Jane Austen.
Because you want to be a burden to your parents.
I would love to be a burden to my parents. I am 27. Read Jane Austen. She's great. Persuasion. If you don't want to read the book, watch the movie on Netflix. It will give you at least an idea of what the book is about.
So I probably, going through this season, will do a lot of comic, graphic novel type stuff. Just because that's what I read a lot of. And it's hard for me to sit down and read long term. I used to a lot more than what I do these days. But I actually I've known about this series for a long time. It's a comic series through Image Comics, and it's called Paper Girls, and it's being adapted. They've already cast everyone. I saw a thing on Reddit the other day. The 4 actresses for the main characters were doing Ask Me Anything, and I think it's for Amazon, which I don't have Amazon, but I'll probably will subscribe to it once it comes out. I've known about it. It's basically, it's set in the 80s, and it's these 4 like middle school aged girls that are paper girls, like, you know, like paper boys.
They take newspapers to your house.
Yeah, and like one of them was like the first girl to do it. And anyway, it takes lots of crazy, weird sci-fi turns and stuff that you don't expect. It basically, I don't want to like cut it short or say they're copying anything, but if you like Stranger Things type stuff, it's very similar to that vein and vibe. Like, it's 80s sci-fi and like just goes in places you don't expect. And it's the same writer who did the comic series Saga, if you're into that, which is like one of the biggest comic series that's going. I haven't finished Paper Girls. I've read Volume 1, which is like the first 6 issues, while Hannah was doing a job interview. And I liked it so much that we drove all across the city to the other end to find someone who had Volume 2, because none of the Barnes & Nobles or anything like that had them. And so I've got Volume 2, haven't read it yet, but it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And I know it's like a super award-winning, and it's being made into a TV show and stuff, so it's fresh on my mind. I'll have other ones going forward. But obviously no fantasy points. Jake's not here. We know that. If you haven't listened to that, he's not here. Like, that's going to be the way it is going forward.
We can't do fantasy points because there's only 2 of us. And we would skew the number.
True, and also like it's that was kind of like Jake's thing, and so we're letting that go with him if he comes back.
If you ever heard. Several episodes ago, he talked about doing fantasy drafts for anything and everything. Did not matter what it was. That's like his thing. It's like a fetish for him.
Yeah, he gets super turned on by it, and
he loves drafts.
Yeah, so
we can't do one without him.
And by the way, if you haven't listened to those other ones, like we're all completely fine. There's no turmoil or anything, but like we talk to Jake all the time, and he's getting married next month, and we're moving, and
there's a lot of transition and a lot of change.
Yeah, and it just all coincided. And if you ask Wes Bergman, who I have talked to recently, he says Jake's exit is at least temporary. And you got to trust the good Wes on those words.
He knows all things.
He knew about it already. Like I was just talking to him about some other stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I'm aware." And he's like, "You did fill me in on some things." He's like, "But I listened to the last couple episodes." And so Jake is in our hearts, and we still are recording. When we get back from Utah, we're recording the Patreon redemption house, basically, where we
finale with Jake.
Yeah, and then it'll go live on the main feed as well at some point, but it'll be on Patreon first. So again, I didn't do any plugs at the beginning. Patreon.com/SmashingHeads Podcast. At Smashing Heads on Twitter, at Smashing Heads Podcast on Facebook and Instagram.
If you want to ask any questions for Jake or his fiance
or us about the move or anything,
we're recording this last podcast with Jake, answering questions for him, and his fiance Amanda will be with us answering questions. So if you have any questions specifically for either of them, join our Patreon and you can ask literally any question you want.
Yeah, and I mean, well, to a degree.
No, they can still ask.
You can ask, but I might screen it out. But we're doing that, and then Jake may come back, at the end of each season to kind of talk about his takes on like who he liked and all that type of stuff. 'Cause he's still going to watch the show. He's
still our best friend.
I don't think he's going to watch the Challenge USA. I just think with everything going on right now, with how busy he is. He doesn't know any of these people other than the Survivor ones that we watched. I feel like he's going to sit this season out. But the main show and All-Stars, like, he's still going to be in on.
He really likes All-Stars.
Yeah, All-Stars is great. And I know that Mark Long now is trying to get the Road Rules rebooted.
I've never watched Road Rules.
Can you say it? So anyway, we will be back with you in actually just a couple days, because we're going to get back on a normal schedule. It's just, again, with us having to get out to Utah, having to get our house on the market before we went to Utah, and all this, there's just been a million things happening, and we had to have people. We had to do all kinds of landscaping, and we had to have people power wash the house, and we had to deep clean and sell, and do two weeks of yard sales, pack everything. It's just been nonstop for the last 2.5, 3 weeks. So we love you guys. We'll be back for episode 3. We'll be here all season long.
Stay cute.
The USA. Is that your new thing going forward?
Oh, what if it is? Because we don't have Jake to sign off.
That's true. Okay, that's what we. All right, guys, we'll be back with you next week, and
stay cute.